Alright, so a lot of you might look at this chart and say, what the I don't think I can chart that. There's a bunch of gaps in it. There's a bunch of spaces. Most likely the gaps and spaces are due to, market hours going into extended hours, coming back right after pre-market, gapped up. That's what the gaps are for. I personally don't usually chart on a standard candle chart. I usually go over here to the Heikin Ashi chart because it is very good at respecting points of resistance and support. Okay, and it's a lot easier to see in my mind. I also have shown people that if you go to a line chart, a lot of times you can see them clear as day. See, if we take a line and run it straight through here, which my line is apparently on its own bullish trend, but hopefully you get the point. It doesn't have to be perfect, just like I say all the time, it just needs to be that area. You need to know when it comes to it what it's for. Is it a resistance, support? Depends on if it's above it or below it, of course, but you need to know what it's for. Okay, and on this you can see clear. You can see clear as day. This is a resistance point. It's a very common point. It's right there. Of course, price there is at 134.50. Big whole number. Pay attention to the big whole numbers. It's either moving in dollar amounts or quarter amounts. So 134.50, 135, 136, 136.50. 136.25. Those are going to be always common points. It's usually never like some random number like 134.67. Sometimes you might see the one like that thrown in there, but it's typically right at a whole number or a quarter amount. So let me go back to the last chart we were on, and we can begin to find our support and resistances. If you hear me say horizontals a lot in the Discord, that's what I'm talking about. And thanks to Forex and US 30, I like to chart all my horizontals now in boxes, areas, instead of just a straight line. Sometimes I use a straight line if I'm day trading something on like the 5 minute or something, but if I'm charting main daily trend, support and resistance, then I'm going to do it in an area box because it's never going to be perfect, and the box is just it just stands out a lot better, Okay, so we're in the 147ish, 150ish range, so we're not going to go too low here, like down here. We don't really need that right now because we're not in that area. So I'm just going to drag my dashed line there into some points that I think are the strongest. That's going to be one right there. Okay, so we're going to drag our box out and we're going to pop it right there. We have a resistance here. These I would consider being resisted by the same area. You can see it got resisted here, then supported and resisted right there, It finally broke above it there, supported, and then took off. Okay, so we know that's a good point. So we want to keep her. Okay, now we're going to get another box. We're going to find another point. It's right at all these tops, right? And then the points that I see on that one, obviously right here, here, and over here. And if we were watching it this day, probably got quite a bit of resistance right there. We'll go ahead and put a small area up here at this previous high. Now I see some other points in there, but I'm not going to draw them as boxes because when I come to the chart and I'm looking at this, I want to think of them as strong, but not as strong as my boxes. Okay, so we'll put one there, and I will show you all the reasons being. Right, obviously right there, our first point, a resistance here, supported numbers of times there, supported, then fell through, resisted a couple times, resisted a few times. One more point that I'd like to grab on this daily chart here, this one right here. You can see here got resisted because of that red candle that's right there. You can see it got pushed back down. The price got pushed down, and then they finally broke it above it. Took them a few days, but they did it. Little steam engines that could. And then we have a support here, finally broke, and it went lower. Supported here, pushed up, supported here for a second, supported here. So in the future, if we ever come back down to this area, it's likely to meet some type of resistance or some type of support there in the future if it gets back down there. So after I get a few good lines, main lines from the daily chart, what I want to do is start stepping down my time frame. Typically I do all of this on the 4-hour time frame, but since this video is being made for newer people, I will make sure to do it on the daily time frame because that is going to be the easiest point to find a lot of good support and resistance areas. So as we start to step down our time frame, we start to see just what everything's doing a little bit more. We scroll back here, we can see it bouncing between our lines here. That's exactly what we want to see. Those I will show you. Basically it's just like in our last video, saying when we identified the trend, we knew when it came on a bullish run, when it came back down to our bottom line there and made a higher low, we were looking to get in on that higher low, okay, on that line. So same thing here. we're looking to get in when the price is going to bounce off of one of our support areas. So if you're seeing it come down here and we have this line in here that we've charted, we know that this is now a support. Okay, so we're looking for it to bounce off of this. Let me do that with a different pen. We're looking for this to bounce here, okay, and it bounced here as well, and then bounced here and finally went higher. The same thing over here, it broke above this previous resistance. Of course, we've got to wait for the test of that now support, and then we go higher with it. And as you see, the reason we did these boxes is because they're going to be the stronger support and resistance zones, and I'll show you what I mean. We can get in for a nice little scalp or a quick trade if we want, or if it's going to break above this and continue to go higher, where is it likely to go and end up? One of our other good strong daily boxes or strong daily zones that we drew before. That's why we try to find the strongest points first, and then we start working on the smaller points after that. So if everything looks good and we can't really see any more points that are really sticking out to us on the 4-hour time frame here, we're going to start to move down. So after that, I'm going to go to the 1 hour. Okay, and now you can really start to see what's going on inside of them. When you see this stuff getting supported on one of your daily time zone, daily time frame supports, you know what's likely to happen. And you see the green line that we drew here. When it gets above like something like that, if you have that line in there and you see that it's been getting resisted on that for quite a while now, like it has right here, got resisted numerous times for multiple days there. It got resisted. Well, once it finally starts to break above it, most likely the next place it's going is one of your main zones. If nothing else really sticks out to us, we are going to move down to a time frame that we would normally trade, so 5 and 15 minutes. So we've been charting. We have our nice let me change this back now to standard candles now that we have our good lines in there and stuff. If price on Monday starts to come down further, you know where you should look to get an entry, right? Because this is such a big support resistance area from the daily time frame. That means it's a very strong area, and you should probably look for a position there. You should probably expect it to stop this downward move that it's making here on the 5-minute time frame, start to bounce off of this, and on the daily time frame probably go to make a new higher high. I'm going to show you my US 30 chart since I already have it charted. Alright, so these red zones that I have that kind of look like a dotted line, those are different colored because they are from my daily time frames. Okay, so I just want to be able to identify them in case I put other lines in here, like this dashed green line up here or this yellow line right here. I know those aren't as strong as point as the red lines because they're from lower time frames. Not to say they're not going to come into play, but because they're not really shown in the daily time frame, they were most likely found here in the 1 hour or something lower. So a lot of people are asking me how I made the $2,000 this past Friday. So if we look in here, again, this is the 1 hour time frame. And I'll show you on a lower time frame that I'm typically trading. We have this big daily support resistance area, this big daily support resistance area, my yellow line, which isn't a big resistance daily support area, and then another one down here, right? We have it resisted here at the top, which was basically it going for all-time highs. They said no, not yet, and they shoved it down. When this candle started to build and it started to really show the momentum that it had, you could guess where this thing was going. Most likely to our next daily support and resistance. Now I'll come in here and I'll show you on a lower time frame because it's easier to see. Yeah, that'll work right there. Okay, so when this started to break through here, got resisted. This massive red candle here really showed some strength on the sellers. Right here as it started to break through here, that's when I got a short position and we wrote it down through here. And then I went and got a long position, and you might be wondering why, because it just dove off the face of the earth, because I knew right here there was going to be at least a little bounce. Okay, and on most stuff you only need a little bounce to make a good bit of money. So since I knew there was most likely going to be a bounce right there, I went and got a long position right as it hit that line and just waited a few minutes. And as it started to pick up, I exited it real quick, because if you ever see this type of move in any market, crypto, forex, stocks, anything, it'll make a very sharp down move, pick up a little bit, come back down. You think it's going to get supported, it never does, and it keeps falling. Tesla does this almost every day. So look for that pattern on Tesla right off the market open, and buy puts when it bounces. It'll look like it's going to curl like this and then just just sell it. Sell it to delist, basically. What this is a bearish flag. And I'll show you here. We make our nice big pole, and then we have a flag right there. I don't think I've ever seen a bearish flag end up not breaking out of the bottom. So like I said, whenever you see this big move, big downward move, and it'll look like it's going to curl back and test that support, and you're like, oh, well, double bottom, right? No. No, 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 no. Never, never. So as it kept falling, me and Josh were trading this, and I told him I was going to get in another short position as it came through here, as this gray box that I have right here. As it came through there, I told him I was going to get another short position as it broke my gray box, and I'll show you on a higher time frame in a minute. Gray box is a really strong trend that it's been having. As it broke through it, I knew exactly where it was going, my next line. So like I say, you chart it and then you trade in between. Okay, so since I told you I would, I'll go to a higher time frame here, and I'll show you this kind of trend that I noticed in here, which, like I said, I watched for it to break out of, and then I got another short position. The reason I drew it in here like this is because I seen more points, and that made sense to me in here. I seen these as just kind of a breakout period, and then tested it here and kind of went up higher, tested it again, eventually fell through it, and then got back in the trend here and started bouncing. And if you just notice what I drew a bearish flag without even knowing it. So bear pull, bear flag, break out the bottom. Once, like I said before in our last video, and probably every video before that, this is what it takes to start being a profitable trader. You need the screen time here in front of the charts, watching the patterns, watching it move. It does the same thing across every stock, every forex, every crypto. It's all the same moves. Some, again, like I said before, a little slower, a little faster, but it's all the same stuff. So start charting now. We'll see you in the next video. I'm going to show you how to use these horizontal trend lines on a smaller time frame and use them to day trade, and how they'll help you tell the future when you get there.